Welcome to Riding the Trauma Train, or welcome back if we've shared this space before. I'm Lydia, your host and fellow passenger in this journey of self-healing, inner strength and personal growth. This podcast is a safe, judgment-free space dedicated to the realities of living with and healing from trauma. Through personal stories and in-depth conversations with special guests, including therapists, healers, practitioners, and fellow survivors, we look at what healing can truly look like in everyday life. We explore realistic healing journeys and share simple, sustainable practices and actionable tools to support your well-being along the way. So grab your ticket, take a seat, and remember you are not on this journey alone. Today, we have the lovely Kim Gray, who is the founder of Sattva TIE, a trauma-informed educator for the fitness industry. Kim, thank you so much for joining me on Riding the Trauma Train today. Can you give yourself a better introduction than that? Because I think what you do is so empowering and impactful for so many people. And I think I'm not going to do you justice.
Thank you. I think that the introduction was really lovely. Just to kind of build on what you were saying, yes, it's Sattva TIE, it's trauma-informed education for the fitness and wellness industry. And, as an instructor I've got one foot in the instructor's door and I've got one foot in the education door. And I'm just trying to really kind of build that bridge over to raise the standards in the fitness industry so that I can, be a voice to all those people who've been silenced by trauma. So that's the mission, is to kind of, educate the instructors and the gym managers and people on the gym floor and those instructors just to kind of really be compassionate. My website's slogan is rooted in compassion and backed by science. And so that's what our mission is, to really kind of get trauma-informed fitness education to everybody who is within fitness.
And it makes so much sense. So being somebody that has had almost a lifetime of trauma, the fitness for me is my lifeline. However, when I'm triggered or get anything that's kind of trauma related, it does affect my journey in my fitness goals, in my nutrition goals. So having that additional education for instructors and coaches is really paramount, especially in the world we live in today, because I'm pretty sure there isn't many people that haven't been through a trauma in some way, shape, or form. How did you get into this world?
I mean, as I say, I'm a teacher. Before I had children, I was full-time teaching. And then I just decided, I wanted to give my children 100% of my attention. So what is it that I could do to be there for my children, to give them that time that they need with me? And so I started to think of, my own journey. And there was a couple of kind of things I could hold on to. So one of them was when I had my first baby, I had a diastasis recti, where your muscles tear. And I know that wasn't such a massive trauma in the whole, all of the things that could go wrong with having a baby. I had quite a nice journey, but that kind of did affect me afterwards. And so I went to a couple of exercise classes afterwards to see whether maybe I could feel better about myself. And I went to one class and the instructor was absolutely fantastic and knew all about postnatal and was able to kind of put their fingers right into those muscles, have a squidge around and see how torn they were and what exercises we could do to kind of repair those. I then stepped into another class and nobody asked me if I'd had any injuries or if anything would affect me in any way. And so I wasn't feeling 100% confident. So I just didn't speak up and I didn't do anything. And I just carried on and did every single exercise, even though I knew in my back of my mind that the other instructor had said I probably wouldn't do these because it could make it worse. And I just did them because I didn't want to be the one that puts my hand up in the room and said, actually, I've got this problem, because I'd already heard somebody else say they had a hip operation, or, somebody else might have a knee operation. I thought, well,
Yeah.
that's a bit more serious than my just torn muscles. So then I left the class and I sat in my car for about 10 minutes just crying. And I just thought, gosh, if I can be the person who is crying in my car because of my unspoken words, how many people are taking this baggage into a class, hoping to feel better at the end of it and leaving feeling worse? And as an instructor myself, I thought, I can't have people coming into my class with all of this baggage and trauma and leaving again feeling worse because of something I've either said, music I've played, my attitude, the way that I may have said, right, we want 10 more of those, do some press ups, or they might feel like triggered because somebody's now used a tone they don't like. And so I then started to think of, you know, well, do I have any trauma from, before then that actually I feel like it's a bit triggered? And then I started to do a lot of research. And then I did my own courses. I did somatic breathing courses. I did trauma informed courses myself. When I was at university, I studied communication and psychology. And so I started to piece together all of these things and my absolute love of teaching anything. And I started to think, well, I could probably just do an online course. And it just became more and more detailed because I just thought this standard isn't yet the standard that I would require. I wouldn't pay for this because my standard has always been higher. I'm a big learner. I love doing courses. I love that result at the end of it. I love being able to see that I've scored, I've passed, or I've got a greater achievement than I thought I was going to get. And so I thought,
Or the
I'm going to just keep
certificate.
going. Yeah, I want another certificate to put on the wall. So I just kept thinking, no, it needs to be better. So I did more research, I put in more detail, and I found the best possible accreditation, which is SIMSPA, which is the Chartered Institute. We tried to remember it, for the management of sports and sport and activity. And through them, they accepted the course, and I then put it through extra scrutiny and got it endorsed. And most courses are along the same lines are maybe between 2 and 5 points. And I just kept going, and mine is 10 points. So it kind
Yay,
of gives you
well
an idea.
done.
Yeah, thank you. Because of how much detail and effort that I put into there and how much I think it's so important that people really learn about trauma and how it's affecting people.
Oh, I one, that is an amazing achievement. That is to double the actual standard of point system is crazy. Two, I never actually thought about the triggers of I did get tones of voice and things like that, but
Mm.
music is so powerful. If you're sad, you can listen to a song. If you need to be upbeat, but then if you're somebody that has been through, so say like you.
Diastasis recti.
Yeah, so I have seen that on lots of different information guides and things like that. But if somebody has also been through a trauma that could be to do with birth, say whether they were hypnobirthing, I know I have a couple of friends who unfortunately their children, their babies passed. Now, if they were listening to songs whilst that was going on, 10 years down the line, that whatever song they were listening to is still going to be triggering. So I think thinking about every aspect of what you are delivering is really, really important. I know it takes so much effort and so much evidence to show that what you are delivering is going to be beneficial for other people. What made you decide to get it accredited? Accredited. Can't talk today.
I thought anybody to be able to take me seriously. I didn't just want it to be one of those courses that you just pay for. You know, you can get a course in anything these days, can't you? There's loads
Mhm.
of apps where you can just go on, do a course, and it could be a perfume making course, and suddenly you're a perfume expert. Or I think a lot of the most worrying ones are nutrition. So you can suddenly learn about a bit of food, and suddenly people are now calling themselves a nutritionist. So I didn't want anything that was going to have blurred lines. So by going down the route of SimSpa, I wanted to make sure that my course was lifted to the highest possible standard so that people would hear about my course, think that sounds interesting, and then see the accreditation endorsement stamp and then raise the eyebrows. It's SimSpa endorsed. Okay, now I'm going to look at it. And that's really the only way that I feel like this new concept in this industry was going to be able to get that levitation to be able to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and I do totally get that, because there are a lot of people, or there are a lot of companies, things are being just attached to the end of other courses. But in order to be trauma informed and in order to be able to help people in the correct way, you need to be able to have that education. You can't just say, "Oh, yes, I'm trauma informed," and think that is going to cut it. It just isn't. Tell me about the name sattvatie.com. Tell me about Sattva and TIE. So TIE is the trauma informed education. Talk to me about Sattva.
Yeah. So Sattva, I'm actually practicing Buddhism. So this year, actually, I've been given a new title. So I'm now the women's division leader for the West Sussex area. So basically, we chant every day. We chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and it's part of Nichiren Buddhism. And if I am a bodhisattva of the earth, then I'm teaching other people about being kind, about how to be peaceful, how to really push this philosophy through, just weave it through the roots of life, basically, and just to live a really good life, be kind, and just think about karma. Obviously, if you do something negative, you can expect something negative to happen. Whereas if you always try to see the we call it the Buddhahood in everybody. So even if somebody is doing terrible things, you can see the Buddhahood in them somewhere. There's something really good about them. It might be that they cook really well, or sometimes you've got to really dig deep. But by me being a bodhisattva, is I am being somebody who is living that life and telling people about it. And even if I'm just living a life and people are noticing that I'm kind, or maybe I have an energy about me that is good, I am being a bodhisattva. So I've taken the first section off, and the sattva is the teaching. And so that's kind of what I am trying to do by calling my business Sattva. I'm also having to explain it, and that was intentional, because by doing so, I am then spreading this good philosophy that has come from, Buddhism has obviously come from India thousands of years ago, but this strand is come from a philosopher in Japan, and it's spread through to us. And by, you know, using the name sattvatie.com, I'm obviously having to explain it to everybody, and hopefully get that message out. And if somebody thinks, oh, that sounds interesting, then obviously I can tell them more about it. So I'm being more of a bodhisattva than before. And so it's just about finding the mystic law and connecting all things, which is why, we are rooted in compassion. So this has come from here, but it's also backed by science. So within the course, we obviously are connecting all of those things. So the industry, my mission is kind of to get the fitness industry to be a lot more compassionate, but then I'm also delivering a lot of information about the nervous system, and that's the science bit.
I love that. Sattva and TIE is like teacher of education, teacher of trauma
Mm.
informed education. So marrying up those two names, I think it's wonderful. And I think what you're saying about connecting so many people, and if people are being connected through trauma informed practice, it means that other people are going to be able to speak up, and other people are going to be able to connected with other people that maybe can't speak up, getting the message out there that there are people that are willing to help you, there are people that are willing to educate you. I know so many people in the fitness industry, and I know so many people. I've had 3 or 4 different coaches over the years, some of them more trauma informed than others. Can't really, unless they do some proper education, they can't really teach me when I'm going through one of my triggers, because they kind of have to take a step back, because they only know the fitness. They don't know the trauma relationship to me and what's going on. How can they kind of, so I think on your website you have individuals or organizations. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So the main objective really was to set up and go straight to the heart of the gyms, the health clubs, and just say, right, let's just get everybody trained in this, because as soon as you've done that, your one place that you're working with, your one gym, everybody's on the same page. And not only for the clients or the members, but also for the staff. Because, once those staff feel more valued, they smile more, they relax more, and they deliver the best possible service to those clients, to those members. Those members will relax more, and gym retention, like anybody who's got a problem with gym retention, they don't really know why. And I think that this might be one of the reasons why. And so, the giving the instructors or the PTs that confidence to be able to say, yes, I can talk to you about your mental health, rather than shy away from it, rather than go, just do a couple more reps. But let's just not talk about it, or, don't worry about it, or be fine, or, let's give them some confidence. Let's give them the energy. Let's give them the time to go, if you want, we can go for a coffee afterwards, or let's not do this exercise today. I can see that your energy level's not the same. And, let's work on your mental health today. We'll go for a walk outside instead of sitting inside the gym and doing these reps or whatever. Let's do that today instead. I can say this to individuals, and that's fine. But if if you just educate one person in a gym, it's not really going to make much difference to the whole organization. If we can go straight to the top, and the person at the top says, yeah, we're all going to get this training, everyone in the gym is trained, from the minute those clients step through that door, they can relax, they can feel safe in that environment. Suddenly, the place that they have been going to every single day or every single week, with nobody really knows their name, nobody really understands them, now they're walking through this door and they feel like, if I'm having a bit of a day where I just want to cry, I feel safe to do that in here because this is my safe space. And everybody is in there to catch you. And even if it might be the other way around, we're not, this is the instructor and this is the person underneath. No, if we're all here, you know what, the instructor might be having a bad day. And then someone above them or, on the same line, another instructor can go, you know what, let's just go into the staff room. Let's go for a walk. Let's go and do something. And now everybody is trauma informed. Everybody is coming to this place of work with their own baggage.
Mhm.
And that's why I've set it up on my website as two separate entities. If you're an individual and, I think a lot of gyms, there's one in London, I think Gym Box, where they rent the space. The PTs just rent the space. So there's no kind of group team training. But one of those might say, you know what, I'm going to do this training. And then they're going to tell their friend. My way of doing that is saying, actually, I'm going to give you an affiliate code. So once you've finished the course, I'm going to give you a code so you can earn money from, saying to your friend, you can do the course as well. So in that respect, you can also get that entire gym completely qualified, but you can earn money from each of the individuals that, sign up and complete the course. You can't just get a load of people to sign up and then just bump them off afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be on holiday. But, so individually, yes, you can do it because you might be the only one in that gym that actually sees any worth in it. I've been to a few gyms and told them about the course and said, hey, maybe we could do this. And I've had feedback coming back saying, oh, well, I just don't think it's very holistic. I'm not sure that you've really understood the point, or maybe not even looked at it. But there might be one person in that gym that says, I don't really agree with that gym boss, but I'm going to go and do it myself. And
Mhm.
that's why I've given the option of individual. I've given the option of, whole organizations, because I think that's the only way really that we're going to change the industry and, really kind of shake up the industry and say, you know what, we need to get rid of this no pain, no gain type thing. This phrase has got to go. We shouldn't be killing ourselves, injuring ourselves, putting ourselves through mental strain just to have a good outer shell when the inside is still, churned up like, like a plowed field or whatever. Like, we still need to work on those inside bits.
Yeah.
And so we've got the individual, we've got the organization, and I've even got a section in there for schools so that I can just go in and they can't do this fitness course, but they can hear me and talk about the communication that potentially coaches are using on the field. So maybe just generally the communication that you're using, just the way that you say things, giving options rather than saying, right, this is what we're doing now, this is what we're doing now. Right, well, your option is this, or the other option is this, so that people have more ownership of actually what they're doing, in their lives. I mean, that might be slightly different in school because obviously, if it's lunchtime, we're all going to lunch and you're 4, you probably just have to do as you're told. But the idea is that I'm not closing the door on anybody. We're being available to everybody. But my main aim is to go directly to the organizations.
I think that is really important because they are at the heart of the industry, aren't they? So if you go to the head of the organizations, they can kind of filter it out. But I do love the fact that actually if somebody has decided or an organization has decided that they didn't want to do it, that the individuals can then still do it themselves. I also think if an organization decides that they're not going to do it, I'd like to know why.
Mm,
I've put out on my newsletter about the Epstein files, all these things that are trauma related and also related to our bodies, not knowing what you're going through on the inside while still trying to go to the gym and get fit. And you don't understand that actually the two are connected. And what may be a good day happening on the outside because you're doing so well in the gym has actually affected your mental health in some way, shape, or form, or vice versa. Our emotions are literally there, aren't they? They're there as an invitation, as a direction of what's going on the inside. What would you say to an instructor then that was not had the education yet, but they themselves are going through their own kind of trauma? What would you say to them about their emphasis on being in the gym and being an instructor?
I think for them, I would definitely suggest they did the course. The way that I've structured the course is 7 modules. So the first one just introduces trauma, what trauma is, how there's different categories of trauma, because as I said before, people just think, oh, well, trauma is, this one humongous thing, but actually there's 3 separate levels. Then we've got the next level, which level 2, which is all about the science, about the nervous system. But then as we work through the modules, there's actually modules on breathing techniques, about personal boundaries and how to maintain those boundaries between you and your client or as your members. Because obviously once you open up, you don't want to then suddenly be, dear Deirdre and everyone's coming to you. You want to be able to have those boundaries so that you can support people. And I've got a section where you go to, obviously, we're not trying to create therapists, but we can go to the level where, right, I think that it might be helpful if you were to get some professional help. This is, and then have the information there ready. So for, for instructors, they've got that section that is one module, which is purely about the instructor and about how, you should look after yourself, how you should maintain boundaries between the people that you're training, how you can do these breathing techniques. I also lead breath work and handpan meditation sessions. So I've put a bit of that into the course because, when I play handpan, it's on a frequency of quite often it's a frequency of 111 hertz, which is in line with the brain that calms the brain down. And so anything that's kind of on a similar level is also calming the brain. So for that instructor, if they're having their own trauma, they're having a bit of a day, I would suggest that they, after they've done the course, or even if they're not doing the course, I would still give that advice that before you go in, make sure that you've given yourself at least 10 minutes. That's quite a minimum time. 10 minutes to just sit. You're going to do some breathing techniques. You're going to just sit on your own, maybe have your headphones on. Personally, I listen to Malte Martin. He plays handpan and he has the healing frequencies. I like to just listen to his album because that really chills me out. And it's so, you can turn it right down. I can work in the background. Anything a bit more buzzy than that and I get a bit start dancing. But yeah, just listen to something that's really going to chill you out, maybe a guided meditation. And then I think you've got this bubble. You've created your own bubble. You've taken a deep breath and now you've got everything that you need to go and deliver your lesson because the people who are in your class, they do deserve to get that level, that high standard of training, because that's what they've come to you for. But I think it's okay to say at the beginning of a class, I think it's okay to say, hi everyone, just to say, let you know, I'm having a bit of a wobble today. I'm going to try my best to give you the best possible class, but just so you know, if I go a bit wobbly, or, if I get something, this is why. But, my sole purpose is to give you a really good class. And nobody's going to say, oh, well, I'll leave then. And if they do want to leave, then that is their option. But,
Absolutely.
but anybody who's kind of got any amount of compassion would just stay and they would do their class. However, the instructor having a wobble might trigger them, and to give them the option of leaving, that's also fine. Maybe just catch up with them another time. They might be going through something similar to what you're going through. You might be able to help each other, but just by opening that dialogue, you could be just really helping somebody anyway. You end up helping each other. So definitely, do the course, definitely take some healing breaths before you go in, and, really kind of visualize that protective bubble before you go in. And if you can kind of, you know, just deliver the class and kind of get lost in it, because if you're really passionate about something you're going to do, you're really just going to get lost in it, really enjoy what you do. And then at the end, you could then have a bit of a debrief with another trauma informed colleague who, we could just catch each other. I just think there needs to be this, added little time elements that people can just support each other. There should be whole training sessions, or, maybe debrief hour or whatever. And, after lunch, if people want to just go and sit on a beanbag in a room and just breathe and speak to no one, that's fine. Or go to a little section where, this is a safe space for having a chat and debriefing. I think when you're a PT as well, you're obviously very trusted. So the way that you are, interacting with your client, they might then disclose something to you that you might think, that doesn't sit right with me, or that's triggered my own emotion or my own trauma. And to have other people within that organization that are also trained, and that time and that space, you could then share confidentially, the situation. You might not say every single thing that person's just disclosed to you, but you might say, I'm having this client who's disclosed something to me and it doesn't sit right. What kind of advice would you give? So everyone is kind of open, everyone's more open-minded, and everyone's supporting each other. I think quite often now I'm going to a lot of fitness events, and I'm seeing there is so much AI now going on. The digital of fitness has just gone mad, and everyone's like, right, well, I need to buy the latest equipment, and that's fine, but where's the human element? So imagine somebody has been at home, we've woken up, first thing they've done, reach for their phone, start scrolling on social media, think, right, I probably should get up. Exercise is supposed to be good for my mood. Get some gym gear on, heads to the gym, goes, stands in a gym. The gym is now an AI. Someone's now, there's no human interaction. Someone's telling you what to do, telling you you're pulling the weights up too much on your left, too much on your right, whatever. So you're balancing that out. You leave that workout, you go home, you're on your phone on the way home, you get in, you put the TV on. Screen time has been all day and you've had no interaction with any humans. We are animals. And I think we've got to come back to that point where we are animals. Sometimes I just look at these animal programs and I look at chimps and I think, right, what do chimps do? Because I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And when I had my children, I was like, what are chimps doing? Because if that's our closest relative, that's what I'm going to do. And that's probably why I breastfed all three of my children for, the maximum amount of time that I could. So I think my son was almost 2.5. That was the third one because I didn't have any reason to stop. I wasn't trying to, have a baby or whatever. And I think, if the chimps are with each other and we're animals and we should be with each other, then let's
Connection,
just
isn't
get
it?
people in the gym who are trauma informed. So now you can have all of the digital equipment and you can have trauma informed people in there just to spot if you're a bit off or you want to have a chat. So I think you can have both. I'm not being negative on digital equipment. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's the way of the world. We wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to do this if we didn't have digital
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
But I do think you're right. The chimp thing is a really, really good analogy, actually, because if you watch the magnificent man that he is, David Attenborough, on every single one of his programs, when it's gyms, they are all together. It is community, it is connection. So, like you said, that is the closest thing to humans, we all crave that connection. And when you are somebody that, like, go into the gym, like some days, yes, you do, you put your headphones on and you just crack on. But actually, it is connection that we watch other people, what they're doing. We listen to how people interact within that gym environment. So I think it's really important that we do open the conversations because, yes, it may be triggering, but there's a reason that we need to connect with people. There's a reason that if somebody else opens up, that we respond to that in a positive way. Being educated as a trauma informed instructor, you're going to have the tools and the tips and the knowledge to be able to react in a professional and a responsible way. So how would you describe it to somebody that is very basic, doesn't know any kind of scientific technology? Layman, tell me what you say.
Let me just take, I want to be able to say it so that it could be a printed slogan. So let me just have it. So trauma-informed fitness is educating instructors and personal trainers within trauma so that they can deliver a safer environment for clients and members. The course is mapped. When I was looking at becoming endorsed, I had to go through all of SimSpa's courses that they already had, because obviously they've created their own scheme of work. And I had to pick out the statements that were most relative to my course. So I didn't just pick one, I obviously picked 3. So my course is mapped to gym instructor, it's mapped to personal trainer, and it's mapped to core fitness instructor. And because of that, if you are working as an instructor or a personal trainer, the course covers you. To be more specific, I do have plans to have a specific coach course so that then you could be a trauma-informed coach. So then that would be anybody who is, doing any kind of extracurricular activities that would then range, because, for example, if you were a tennis coach or, as you say, a boxing coach, that would then include, children all the way to adults. But because of the way that the mapping system worked within the gym, the biggest, like the most widespread, would be personal trainers and fitness instructors. And that's why I wanted to head there first. Now, when it comes to the rest of the industry, obviously it is more broad than that. I have in my head, I've got loads of different courses, but each of those obviously requires me to write the course and then map the course, which was obviously it took me kind of over a year to create the course that I've done. So obviously I am going to pop that in one, but I have plans to have trauma-informed swimming, trauma-informed coaching, which would then cover a whole host of different sports. As I say, I can lead inset days or, just a training, but it would be more of a case of I can just deliver you some training where you can do role play activities, you can do table activities. I'm not a kind of person who just thinks, let's just all look at PowerPoint and, drift off and hope that in a minute there's a tea break so we can go and get another bourbon biscuit. Like, I'm more of a, let's just get involved and really feel how people would feel in these situations. And those kind of training sessions I can run with any workplace. But that would be more of a case of, I would just call it trauma-informed education. And we would then go into workplaces. I would be with a colleague so that we could really get around everybody and make sure that everyone understands. And there would be it would be really kind of a communication and just an awareness rather than a course. You wouldn't end up with a certificate at the end of it, but you would end up with like an enlightened moment, like, oh, okay, I have been talking like that. And maybe if I said things in a different way, I could be more trauma informed. I think it's really, really good that we celebrate, Mental Health Day in the UK, but however, it's one day and everyone goes mad on their social media or whatever because they're like, oh, it's Mental Health Day. But that for some people is every single day. So I think it's important for everybody to get some level of trauma-informed training, not just mental health training, but let's just dig into that specific trauma, because mental health could be anything. but usually it's triggered by something.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that it's funny that you should say that mental health day. I think people react to it on social media, don't they, in such a big way. There's good and bad mental health. It's all mental health. And if you're reaching out to somebody or going to the gym and kind of thinking, right, okay, this is the moment. I need to speak to somebody. I want to have a personal trainer and I want to be able to work through this trauma alongside getting myself fit. To have somebody that's not trauma informed, you're not going to get the same benefit from that trainer as you would if they were. I've been saying to my friends and potential clients that the whole point of me doing the trauma informed and the mental health exercise is if someone's having a bad day, the last thing they're going to want to do is get down and give you 10 press ups. Like, what is that going to do? It's not one, it's not going to give them a dopamine hit. Two, it's not going to like release any happy chemicals. It's just going to put them through extra stress. I absolutely think what you're doing for the fitness industry is imperative.
Yeah, I
If
do.
somebody was just not employed by a gym, not employed by any large organizations, they can still come to you, can't they, as individuals? How would they go about doing that?
They would just go on to my website and just go onto the individual, and you can just get the course through the website. I'm very contactable. I'm happy to do something like this. The people who've done the course so far, I've sat down with them in person and I've had a chat with them about it before they've done the course, or a Zoom call. Obviously, I couldn't get to Dubai to a lady over there, but we were able to have a couple of chats beforehand, and I just talked her through it. And subsequently, I'm also there during the course if there's a question you don't understand, or there's a section you're not sure of, or you know if there is a section that is triggering and you want to talk it through, then I'm also available. And if it's not me, it would be somebody else who is also trained as an educator, who would then be able to sit and support you. So there is no AI trying to help you over here. There is just humans, because obviously we love a bit of human interaction. But I would just highly recommend anybody to do the course, become educated. As you say before, you could just go for a coffee, or there's a whole module about, breathing techniques. So you could actually go through a half an hour session with a client and they could feel so much better. They might not be that same level of fitness, but there's some definite breathing techniques that you can do where you would feel like you've done a workout. It would be a mental workout. Yeah.
I did that with so I don't know if you know Dr. Rob Kelly, he's an addiction expert and he has got this new therapy and it's called breath box. And I had a session and it was an activation breath. I've never done an activation breath in my life and I literally felt like I had a workout at the end of it. So when you say that, that's literally where my head went straight to that moment.
Yeah. I've actually worked with also I've done for me to be able to do this course, I looked at lots of different breathwork techniques, and my daughter has actually got a bit of a sinus problem. She gets really, really cross when you say, can you breathe through your nose? And she, a little bit of air will come out, and we're going to go and get her seen and make sure that everything's okay. But it kind of got me thinking, what about when you go to these breathworks and people say to you, inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth? So I've done a lot of work on different techniques, and I actually created my own Japanese inspired breathwork technique called Cook You. So Kuki and then U with a little straight line over the top of the U.
Okay.
And I call it Cook You breathwork. So I imagine, because I worked it through with my daughter, we use a straw. And when we don't have a straw, we imagine that we're breathing in through the straw. We take in a deep breath through the straw, we hold the breath, and then we breathe out bubbles into a glass of milk. And we either do it so we can see it, or we imagine it. If we're out and about and she's having a bit of a worry, we do it so that we can imagine that we are blowing bubbles into the milk. Because as soon as you do it in milk, it all bubbles over the top. And it really works well with adults as well, because they think it's funny and it activates that inner child within them. And I think sometimes we're so serious and we're so that, they can relax a bit because they go, oh, and then they remember blowing bubbles in milk.
Don't know if you did this when they used to get the paint pot and the washing up liquid and you used to
Yeah.
make pictures out of it.
Yeah.
That is such a good visualization. I was going to ask you if you could give us one of those, but I don't need to now because
Yeah.
you've already
Yeah.
wonderfully done us a little technique.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so this is such an amazing addition to the fitness industry. And I know that it is going to benefit so many people. And the more and more people we can get to be trauma informed, the more and more personal trainers and clients are going to be have longevity with their mental health, longevity with going to the gym or just fitness in general. I have got so I usually ask my clients, I was going to say my clients, my guests, something called the conductor's question. Now, the conductor's question is about being on that train. And I'm just in my head because of what we've spoken about, I'm trying to figure out in a way that I can ask you. So, what I may ask you to do is while my brain is ticking over, because as I said at the beginning, it's not really firing on all cylinders today. Can I ask you to go over that technique again, just for a minute or so that it's a complete technique that you're saying to the audience? And I will think of the conductor's question whilst you do that.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course. So I have created the Cook You breathing, which is a Japanese inspired breathing technique where you imagine yourself with a straw. And instead of using the nasal passages to inhale, we are using only the straw. So we are holding onto a straw either mentally or physically. You can hold a straw and you can take a deep breath in. You can hold it for 4 counts and then you exhale and you imagine blowing bubbles into a glass of milk so that the bubbles, so much so that they overflow over the top of the glass onto the table in a very childlike way. You can find that amusing. And then you can continue to do the same techniques. You hold for 4 and you exhale. And whilst you're in the flow, then you can start to count. You inhale for 4, hold for 4, you exhale for 6. Each time you exhale, you try to exhale for 1 extra so that your inhale, your hold, and your exhale starts to become a way of imagine that your feet are fully planted onto the floor. They are drawing energy up all the way through your legs, through your body, through your straw. You are inhaling good energy. You are holding it. You are exhaling all of the negative energy, all of those negative thoughts out. And now you can really develop it. You can start to blow bubbles, not only in your milk, but one of those bubbles is going to become even bigger and it's going to come all the way out in front of you, pushing your arms all the way right in front of you, stretching it out all the way over your head, and you've created yourself a bubble of protection. Now you are inhaling all of those most hilarious thoughts that you've had, all of those most loving experiences that you've had. Now you're filling your bubble with the most enlightening, loving, happy thoughts. And you are exhaling all of that negative energy, all of those negative thoughts, and anything that anybody is going to say or do to you in the day is only going to hit the top of your bubble. It's going to go over the top of your bubble and it's going to leave and it's never going to come inside your bubble. And that could be anybody that even the closest person in your family, they can't get into your bubble because you have blown that bubble of protection so wide as your arms can reach you, that this whole technique is developed from this one tiny thought of inhaling through a straw, holding and exhaling bubbles into milk.
That is amazing. The visualization of a bubble is very childlike, but it's also very apparent to adults, isn't it? Because we are still children of in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, if you think about, dementia patients, I mean, what happens to them as they go on? It's happened to a couple of my family members who have sadly passed. And you know, they were a child, they were an adult, and then they get this terrible disease, and they're children again.
Mhm.
And so it kind of makes you think, you know what, maybe there was a child inside all of these adults that was just desperate to get out. And it's taken this illness to actually release it.
Yeah.
So just don't ignore your inner child. Just, do a breath work technique and allow it to come out and use it to protect yourself against lower energies and negative people and negative situations. And, there's only one thing that you can do. You can change you. You can't change other people and you can't change other situations. And I think once we've kind of got that into people, that is the only way that you are really going to reach for the word that's above your head, happiness.
Okay. I have the conductor's question,
Yes.
and it's in relation to the Kim that was sat crying in the car
Hmm.
after your PT session. If you could say to Kim, if you were to step on the trauma train and
Hmm.
sit next to that Kim on the train in the carriage, knowing what you now know about being trauma informed, what would you say to her?
Think I would say speak up. It's okay to speak up. And I probably would have told her maybe just to go to the class maybe 10 minutes earlier, found the instructor, told the instructor about the situation, and then just created my own bubble. And just known with that confidence in myself, known to just sit still on those bits I couldn't do, or raise my hand and say, "Can I have an adaptation for this bit, please? I'm not comfortable doing this bit."
Fear of judgment, isn't it? It's fear
Mm.
of judgment, fear of failing, like so many different things. But saying speak up is amazing. And also that 10 minutes, like think of how many people could just speak to the instructor quietly because it's not, you're not being outed. You're just saying, look, I need to tell you of this. And it is about speaking up. So thank you so much for that.
I have another tiny thing just to add to that, that I have also created, um, in line with everything else. I've also created the Sattva Connect, which is a 60-second concept that you could just, before a class, it's just a 60-second questionnaire that the members or guests or whatever they do just before they go into a class. And the instructor will get that on their tablet and they'll be able to see when they've done the register, who's in the class, and it will just have you know, a little check in to see how they are doing mentally. It's completely optional, but so I wouldn't have to then go and say anything. I would just stand on my phone, click, 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 couple of questions. Very important, I think, with certain classes like yoga and Pilates. I've got an extra section on there that says hands on adjustment today? Question mark?
Yeah.
No. And what you might usually say is yes. This particular day, you might say no. Something might have happened to you that you really don't want any hands on, and that's fine. But I don't want to have to say that to the instructor that, yes, I usually don't mind if I'm doing a downward dog and you kind of just gently roll my hips into the correct position. I usually don't mind that, but today I'm not feeling it. I don't want you to. And so I want to say no on this questionnaire on this little app. And then at the end of the class, all of the information is deleted. There's no data protection. That's just my other thing that I'm also working on for
It's
instructors,
brilliant.
the course, and they get this little tool that just helps them to know who's doing what today. Is everyone okay? Most people will be fine. Some people won't even want to go on it, and that's fine. But it just gives a little option for those people who do. And
Yeah.
she's got a shoulder injury, but she's like, I never say anything about that because other people have got bigger problems. But I would click on that app. So we'll just watch this space and see whether that's,
I
also
love that.
also.
Okay, well, what I will get you to do, Kim, is to send me all your links and I will be passing this on to all my mental health exercise coaches. I think there's 400 in MHEC. So this will be distributed to everybody. And I think it's so important for everybody to get on board with this. And yeah, where can people find you? Obviously, you've got the website, which is sattvatie.com.
Yeah, so
What's your Instagram handles or any other kind of social medias?
my Instagram is Kim Gray, TIE, and then I'm also on LinkedIn.
Okay, amazing. I've been
Yeah.
on LinkedIn for 5 days, so I will go and connect with you.
Yes, took me a while to kind of figure it out, but now that I'm on there, I'm finding it quite interesting to be able to find the people who I know that I need to speak to regarding the
Absolutely.
course. I'm also on a panel at Elevate exhibition at the XL in June. So I think I'm speaking on the 17th. I think it's the 17th and 18th of June. Yeah, and then otherwise, I'm in West Sussex. If anybody's interested in having a yoga and handpan evening, I'm doing a retreat on the 18th of June, actually, at Tinwood Vineyard Estate. So,
Lovely.
yes, people are
Right.
local,
Then
they want
I will
that.
get
So,
this out before that
yeah.
date.
But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate being
No,
heard.
I appreciate you too. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you so much for joining me today on Riding the Trauma Train. I'm Lydia and I feel privileged to share this space with you. No matter where you are on this train right now, whether it's in survival mode, slowly finding your feet in recovery, or maybe it's somewhere in between, remember you are not alone in what you're feeling and you do not have to travel this journey by yourself. So if you'd like to continue traveling together, please follow Riding the Trauma Train wherever you're listening so you can join us at the next stop. Until next time, take care.